Ready? Okay.
Spaghetti.
Ready, spaghetti. Ready, there.
Yeah.
Well, nice to see everybody here.
Yeah.
It was a good week. Been a busy week. Another one. We just have so many busy weeks.
Lots of good and bad, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a slow week?
Doesn't seem to be.
If so, sign me up for that one.
We have not had one in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I know that. So, no, one of the things I want to talk about was I submitted a column that dropped on Thursday. Basically, just it was a plea. Just be a little nicer to everybody.
Yeah.
Basically, that's all I'm asking. I don't want to sit there and banish people. I don't want to ring my shame bell on people.
I like to ring the shame bell.
I know you do. But I just want people, if you want to discuss a topic on our Facebook page, in our comment section, just do it with some grace. That's all I ask. Don't call somebody a name. Don't just say shit that is not even halfway factual. And, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. Is that too much to ask? I ask you ladies.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
It is.
I don't know.
They weep for us.
I kind of think, I see both ways. It is difficult to ask the public something like that, especially when our business is news, and everyone seems to have an opinion on news.
I'm fine with you having an opinion. Just don't call somebody a bad name when voicing your opinion or arguing your side of the opinion of somebody else.
Yes.
Or say, you stupid. What's that accomplish? Say your piece, state your case, let the other person state their case,
We
move
talked
on.
about this last week, so we're asking basically for no ad hominem attacks, right?
Yes, basically that's what we want. Just to pull shit out of left field and just go off on this whole rant. It's like, stop it.
We're asking you to be master debaters.
Yes.
Master debaters.
Yes.
I mean, Brittany and I pull things out of our ass quite often.
But you're not, you guys are the farthest thing from being hateful or spiteful, though.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's like, you do it and then you call me an asshole afterwards, at least
Not
to
to
my
your
face.
face. Yeah, no, not to your
I knew
face.
that was coming.
No.
So, I'm just saying what my t-shirt says. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's right there. Come on.
Don't be a jackoff.
Yeah.
I did
So-
read a comment from somebody that said, is Muddy River News then going to retract
Yeah.
for any time that they're wrong or this, and this?
No.
Well,
We
we
do.
do. We try to.
Well, we do if we screw up,
Especially
yeah.
Ashley and I, when we're pulling
Yeah.
stuff out of our
Yeah,
butt,
we do,
it's like,
sure.
oh wait, hey, I just want to say I clarified this. I, went and found this
Yeah.
out. So
If we have a fact error in a story and somebody calls us and say, hey, you messed that up, sure we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all the time. Not, we don't make that many mistakes, but, if you take a look at the picture of the tens of thousands of stories we put on, I guarantee the amount of corrections or things that we have to put that are tweaks or whatever, it's less than 0.0001%.
I don't math well, but I do. I can appreciate the other side as well, because I do think that even the most idiotic comments create engagement, and people can choose for themselves what is
real and what's not.
yeah, I think that it should be left up to people to have that. That's what we do. We put it out there, and we want people to open their minds and do their own critical thinking. And I think, when people post things that are out of pocket or out, in left field, it's like, yeah, people take it with a grain of salt. Not a lot of those comments carry much weight. They do, however, create engagement on things. And I've always said I appreciate free speech. Now, the big debate, the master debate, if you will, was yelling fire in a theater. And I did some research, and it is not legal. And there was a court case that said, and that was kind of an argument on the post itself that was like,
Yeah. If it
you can or you
leads to a
cannot.
more violent action, yes, you're not supposed to. But
Right.
the point is, just don't go in and just, again, if you want to be passionate about your subject, I'm all for that. But you don't have to do that and trash other people in the process. You
or
can make
trash
your own
us
argument.
on our
Yeah.
platform, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you're using our platform to state your case, but you hate our platform. So pick one and run with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm like, look, free speech be damned if you are
Disparaging a business. We are still a business.
right.
And
it's-
if somebody, like the example we were talking about, if Luke had a page, a Facebook page for his business as a contractor, and somebody kept getting on there and saying, blah, 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 he's a shitty contractor or something, you're not going to keep allowing that troll
Right.
No.
to disparage your business.
Not at all.
Now,
Also, in the fire aspect thing too, real quick, it might not be illegal, and like people have been saying this in comments and posts, but it is a fact that the person that yells fire is most definitely an asshole.
yes, I love Mike's comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's pretty agreeable. The one thing that I will say is like Google reviews, reviews of all types. Now we're seeing more and more trolls, so that brings up like a new thing because I comment on Kelly's reviews or the Abby's reviews, and a lot of times you get somebody that it's obvious they've not even gone there; they're just leaving a bad review, and I don't know what the point of that is, if they're getting paid to do that or why. But I simply go out and say, if you can tell me the time of day, your server, and what you had to eat and where you sat, then we'll take this seriously. But otherwise, this is just bullshit, quite frankly, right? So I think it is important to be truthful, if that's a word, when you're commenting on anything. And if you're not, then you could, you could be
And again,
banished from the world of commenting.
But I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But then, then I have there's guys on there who are just, I can tell they are just baiting me and want me to do it just so they can be a martyr. And I really don't want to give them that satisfaction. And there are guys that have, like 200 friends or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Great, whatever. So I'm going to make, I'm going to be judicious about it. I'm not just going to, be mad and every third commenter I'm going to whack. I mean, it's like, okay, if you say something that's beyond the pale or whatever, and it's like, well, who gets to determine that? I do. We do. It's our page. It's our business. We get to determine that. We are not the government. We are a business. And if we don't like the way you are participating and engaging in our business, we can say, don't come in our business.
It's also our job to protect our other followers. So if they're being bashed on our page for something that really isn't bash-worthy, right? It's like, I mean that's kind of our job too. So it goes both ways. Yeah, right. There's a standard. Now I do think that the comment that asked for the standards being posted somewhere so everybody knows. I don't know if that's something that you can do on an ad hoc basis or if it's like case by case. But I think everybody.
Or you're just taking my picture of the shirt going like this.
Everybody's an adult. I think you know how to communicate effectively, hopefully, or at least get your point across without being an asshole. If you don't, call me. I'll give you some hints. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Also,
it's not hard.
Just note, when you are commenting and if you're adding a site or
Link.
a link, that's the thing. So Facebook automatically hides those for us. We are not hiding those. I try to go back and unhide them.
Yeah.
But like Facebook has a program where they automatically try to delete or hide comments that they think are bots. And anytime you post a link in our comment section,
they flag it and delete it?
Yeah, it looks
They hide it.
They hide it.
Okay.
So I try to unhide it because sometimes people are making great statements and providing, the facts to back it up with the links. So just know that we're not purposely doing that. Yeah. Also know that I think the big thing with this is the fact that we listen. We do read those comments, maybe not all of them, but for the most part we listen. Hence these cords on our microphones.
That's funny. More cords, yay!
More cords, yay! But so, can we explain this? Why we have cords?
Oh,
That
it's a deep fake.
Yes, we had someone who apparently we have multiple people who are engaged in the world of audio visuals or who run sound for bands and things like that, and they saw our mics that did not have plugs in, and it bothered them. Why you just got them sitting there? Well, because they look good.
It's just
and
prop.
It's props. So.
Yeah.
I thought they were funny props that you're like, what is this there for?
Yeah.
But the music people don't like it, including my own husband.
Yes.
He has commented multiple times. He's like, what are those there for? I'm like, for our hands.
Aesthetic. They're aesthetically pleasing.
So we can eat them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like, and again, we have, unlike our guest today, who is, of course, a long-time experienced broadcaster and knows his way around a microphone, we have many guests who don't, and who, will talk and like this, that, and the microphone's over here, and you can't hear them. And then, I have people who say, oh, my God, I can't hear your guest, and it makes post-production a problem. So I was like, let's just go to the clip-on mics, which has been fine. But I'm like, I like these mics. I like them to sit there. And we will probably end up using them again for something down the road.
Yeah.
But for right now, they're like you two. They're eye candy.
Oh, smart eye candy, I think is what you meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligent.
Well, Yeah.
Intelligent
I wouldn't
and
think
beautiful.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's eye candy. I would think, and the beauty.
I don't want to be
would
compared to
assumed.
the microphone that doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah.
But okay.
No,
Okay.
you
This
both
is
definitely serve purposes.
that's funny.
I'm not gonna like try to say that. So.
Anyway, just don't be a jagoff. That's you know what that is, right? And if you don't, Google it.
Yeah.
That'll tell you.
Real quick, let's talk about one of the big news items that happened this week, and that was the Quincy Park District. It seems like the Quincy Park District has had more than its share of drama this year. Go figure. It was much calmer back when somebody I knew was president, but that's okay.
Was it?
Is that you?
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was smooth sailing.
You just had everybody on board with everything
Yeah,
you
it
wanted
was-
to do.
It was a great presidency. I'm just gonna say that.
Here we go again.
No, but apparently this year, Darren Dodd, who is doing great work and bringing all these tournaments and all these kids and having all this activity out there at Mormon Wavering, and they've had some problems with water on the field, and they need to fix a field, and the park districts are saying, "Oh, we got no money, we can't fix the field." Fix the field, people.
Yeah.
This guy is doing, and this guy's paying you. It's not like he's not paying you. He is paying you to hold these events there. The least you can do is make sure the field is playable. That's all I gotta say.
Is there a reason why it's not?
Because they said they haven't had the money to fix what needs to be fixed, and they need to push a fence back. They need to fill some low spots in the outfield, stuff that should have been handled in the off season, hadn't been
I
handled
thought their
this
finances
year.
were like really, really
Yeah, I
good.
thought it was like the best out of all of our governments. But so that's what okay, so in the article that David wrote, it very clearly kind of states that he kind of said, hey, promises were made, promises are not kept. What were the promises that were made?
That this work would be done on the fields, that the fields would be playable condition to bring these teams in from out of town. And
Was this a written agreement, or was this just like a spit handshake?
Yeah.
Well, there was a checklist of things, but it was mostly just a handshake agreement. Although there was a checklist of things that
Get it in
David
writing.
posted, but it was not a signed document.
What is
So-
all the money that Dodd brings in? So you said he spends money, right?
Darren Dodd signed a contract basically to pay $10,000 a year to lease the fields basically for 10 years. But he's also paid some other money on top of that
So where does that money go?
to the park district.
But where does it go?
To the park district.
What are they using
In
it
the end.
for?
Well, apparently they should be using it to fix fields. They ain't using it to fix fields.
Okay. Well, that's a problem.
That's an issue. Yeah.
So,
I don't know, the surface.
Yeah. yeah, the turf is in there, and they got the turf, and that's great for the infield, but you got the outfield that needs some work too. So put some dirt out there, plant some grass.
So
get
they've
the outfield
already
fixed.
done the turf part.
Oh, the turf's done. Turf's
so
fine.
it's
but-
like you just have to finish
Yeah.
what you started.
yeah. Yeah, and,
Before
and
we
extend
start
the fence.
something else.
Yeah.
What else are we starting with the park district? Oh, I don't know. The riverfront?
No, they're not starting. They're doing crap on the riverfront.
No?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet. No.
Not
now they're doing the
yet.
they're doing the dredging on the bays, or that's going on, because the other thing that came out was they really made more of an ironclad commitment to, not ironclad, but they are really saying we are going to give the marina a go. We are going to give it some time. We're not going to sit here and every year and say, oh, maybe we ought to close the marina this year. It sounds like they're actually going to try to make it work because of the work that's being done to dredge the South Bay, to dredge the North Bay, and make it more enticing and inviting to boaters, and try to revive the boating community. So,
But one thing right now is bringing in revenue, right? And that is the fields, right?
yeah, they're
So we
getting revenue.
probably need to do, even somebody I work with at John Henry Foster, their family is coming this weekend for a baseball tournament.
Yeah.
So that's money spent, that's seats and butts and heads and beds, and we should probably promote that more. So yeah, I say
the
Park District,
city-
let's do it.
The city put up $300,000 for this to go toward this to make it happen as well.
Yeah.
And that was the whole gist of that was, hey, this is for tourism. This is to bring people here. It's the whole point of that whole bet on Q thing. And,
Yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to see how the future of that shakes out, because you've got the vote. You're going to have the vote coming up on the food and beverage tax if they're going to keep it. The grocery tax, obviously. So, the mayor-elect has some, it'd be interesting to see how she's going to wrangle all this and see how she's going to put her stamp on it, whether she wants to continue these programs, attempt to continue these programs, or put them aside. But I mean, it's obviously the city does need the revenue.
Yeah.
So-
Now, does she decide that, or the city council?
Well, it'd be the city council,
But
but,
through
it would be
her
her
influence,
administration. She
yeah.
would say, look,
Okay.
here are the reasons I think we should do this. Here's the budget for this. Would you like to pass this?
Yeah.
And then the alderman will go,
Yeah.
So,
Well, in regards to finishing what you started, I still stand by that, because we do have a lot of projects, I feel like, that the Park District still talks about. I know you say Riverfront isn't one right now, but it is constantly discussed.
Sure.
For,
Yeah, they have a committee that has monthly meetings.
Again, why are we even looking at this project if we can't finish the first one that we promised things to, and that brings in direct revenue?
Yeah, we probably need to do that. That's just my 2
Sorry.
cents. No,
Don't be sorry.
I think
Sorry, not sorry.
It makes sense, and it's kind of common sense. It's logical. I'd be interested to see, or hear the agreement and where things fell flat and why. And those are things that I think we kind of all deserve answers to. So.
And it's, and again, this is for kids. It's for baseball. Our guest is a huge baseball fan.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk
Yeah,
about some of that too.
Yeah.
So when we come back.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
What kind of shows will you see on Muddy River Gems each month? The same award-winning storytelling from Mark McDonald and crew that you enjoyed for nearly 20 years on PBS. Muddy River Gems with host Mark McDonald. A new episode every month online from Muddy River News.
Got mud in your blood or want to make your plain truck stand out in a crowd? Then head to Delta Tire for expert advice and old-fashioned customer service. We carry high-mileage tires like the Yokohama Aventus N and Yokohama Geolandar tires for trucks and SUVs. Over 5,000 in-stock tires and wheels in our 4 Quincy locations. Check us out online anytime at deltatirequincy.com.
All right, our guest is the great Jeff Dorsey. He is a longtime service member of the community. He was the part of the Quincy Exchange Club that's now the Quincy Service Club. He's part of the Quincy Regional Crime Stoppers and also a supporter of the Polar Plunge for Special Olympics. Also, the Alzheimer's Association walks, and he and the great Dennis Oliver started our St. Patrick's Day Parade here in Quincy. Thank you for joining us,
Thank
Jeff.
you for inviting me and having me here today.
How are those Yankees doing?
They are a half a game out of first place when I last looked.
All right.
So the bat's legal?
Yes, they're legal.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Boy, you guys will pick anything on my Yankees.
I'm just asking, though. I think they're like everybody get them. So
Why do you like those Yankees, Jeff?
You really have enough time for this?
Sure.
Well,
Born
yeah.
and raised in Brooklyn, New York. My dad was from the Bronx.
You
and-
don't say.
You don't know, telling the truth. And he was a big Yankee fan. And his house is where the new Yankee Stadium, where the current Yankee Stadium is, on the property where he lived.
Wow.
He lived that close to the old
He
stadium.
lived a block and a half away from Yankee Stadium, the old stadium.
Wow.
So it's like
now
in
on
your
that
blood?
property. It's in my blood. You know, a funny story about it is I never saw grass until I was like 5. Because when, as old as I am now, everything was on black and white TV. We would watch the Yankee games, and there would be gray infield and a darker gray outfield. And then one day, I think I was 5, my brother might have been 7, we took the subway out of Brooklyn, no grass, all the way out to the Bronx, walked a block and a half on concrete, got in the stadium, walked up the hill into the ballpark, and saw all this green out there, and I had no idea what it was. Because I'd never seen that on TV. That was all gray on TV. And I had to ask my dad what that was. I still remember that like a little kid. I think it was
So-
5 or
That's
6.
very cool.
Nice green grass, unlike our
So that's why I'm a Yankee fan.
current situation at the Park District.
Well, it's just what grass that's underwater, but that's a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
matter. So, also, as when Brittany was reading off the bio, you also, you were on the air with Dennis for a long time. But then after, Dennis retired, then of course you had to carry Sarah Diane for a few years. So, good job of that.
Yeah, I hear she's going to be here next week.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get punched for that. So
Well,
it's okay.
I'll let you take care of yourself.
So, what did you? I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, but the first question, were you surprised by the result of last week's election in Quincy?
Not that Linda won. I was surprised by how much, maybe. I thought it would be a lot closer. I really did. And I think I appreciate you guys running the editorial I wrote, and I believe, anybody that gets into public office, whether you like the person or not, they are devoting, in this case, Mayor Trope, 4 years of his life, if not more, to prepare for it. And that's a struggle. That's 4 years of one's life to try to do what he thinks is going to be good for everybody in this city. He may not agree with it, but he wasn't in there to make people not perform well, not make the city go downhill or anything like that. I don't think people do that. They want it to be better. And it didn't work out for him, obviously. Now Linda gets her chance to do that same thing for the next 4 years, if not more, how to make this city better. And wish her well and hope things all worked out.
Half of the reason why you came to mind was not only because I see you regularly now at the Elks Club, but because of that editorial letter that you wrote. That did get a great response. The big take-all from that was the voice in your vote. Can you talk a little bit about that for those that didn't read it?
The voice in my vote.
The voice in your vote. How you can't go around complaining if you didn't go and vote.
Yeah.
Basically talking about the voter turnout.
I think I irritated a few people by saying zip it.
And
that's just zip it. It was a thing my mom used to tell me when I would get nasty or whatever when I was a kid or something.
Ashley says that to me a lot.
Oh, really?
So.
And I've heard a lot of people use it, and it just came to mind when I was writing that. I said, my mom used to say, just zip it. I don't want to hear anymore. And that's basically where I was, when I was very, very disappointed in the turnout. When there's, if you only have election day to go to the polls and you get that kind of a turnout, okay, there's a lot of things going on that day. But, people are voting a month or so out by mail. You got absentee balloting if you're going to be out of the area. You can do it by walking to the county clerk's office ahead of time. You can go to the polls and do it. Mailing your ballot in, I think that whole system needs to change. If you're going to mail your ballot in my way of thinking, I think you need to do it 10 days out before the election day. And if it gets in there on time, great. If it doesn't, too bad.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time to get it in there, but if you wait, at least get it 10 days out before so they can count those votes. There's no reason not to have the vote count on
So
election
instead
day.
of saying the postmark issue, it's like if the vote is not in here by election day, we're throwing it out.
It's out.
I agree. I think election day is important.
Why
and
are we
kind
waiting 11 days or so out to count those votes because you're still waiting for a ballot to come back in?
Yep.
That,
Where did the holiday in it go? Because it is a holiday that we celebrate. Is election day is like a holiday. Some people get it off work. Some people.
I'm going to irritate some people with this comment. And again, I lost my filter when I got older. Okay.
I love it.
I don't believe that City Hall should have the day off.
No.
People still have to work. They still have business to take care of. And
is that the only place that does take off?
No, there are other people,
other
I guess.
places.
But I just don't think, they are not affecting the election one way, shape, or form by not working or working.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
the county offices, that's a different story. They're the ones running the office,
Okay.
running the election.
But you know why it was done? Because all those, back in the day, when you had the machine going and all the city workers could go out and
Make
vote
sure you
for,
go vote while you're-
for
yeah.
whoever they wanted. So that's why they do it.
Yep.
And have done it for years. And of course, that was back before they had early voting, and it was just you had to go on election day. So you have also toyed, as we talked about earlier, for the idea of running for mayor off and on for a gazillion years, and you didn't do it, which is fine, and I don't blame you. It's like you said, it's like, why, having to deal with the city council and all this, why would anybody want to do that?
Well, I have toyed with it. I don't get into it as deep as I need to in preparing to do something like that. I did more this year than any other year. I got asked to run. I was thinking about it anyway, and I waited. And I'll be honest with you, it came down to one little thing that most people don't know this story, but when I was telling my family, and I've got 8 grandkids, and the littlest one came up to me, and she overheard me talking to my daughter about running for mayor, and she said, Papa, does that mean that you won't be able to come visit us that much anymore? Aww. And it hit me like a brick right there. I was right on the border whether I wanted to do this or not. And that comment did it.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of time.
And your grandkids are in Peoria, right?
They live in the Peoria area.
So you have one daughter, right?
One daughter.
What's her name?
Jennifer,
Jennifer, and she has how many?
8 kids.
8 kids. So you are grandpa 8 times over. Are you grandpa or are you papa?
I'm Papa.
All right.
I'm
That's
Papa
very-
Dorsey.
That's very fitting.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's the deciding factor on why I really didn't do it. I mean, I was leaning toward it. I think I probably, if that didn't happen, I was probably going to put my foot in the race for it. But when she said that, I was, you drive back to Peoria, you got a lot of time to think, And I said, man, that hit her.
Yeah.
And she's only like 6.
Yeah. So how often do you get those few of those grandkids to go to Dozier Park with you and check out some Chiefs games?
Yeah, we went there one year, and it was a morning game, like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was the last game of the year, and it was great because there was nobody else there. Every one of them got a foul ball.
Oh wow.
I mean, every one of them got one. So they were running all over the stadium getting foul balls, and I almost got thrown out of the game too
For what?
because I was picking on the umpire, but he picked on me first. I had my Yankee hat on, and he saw me sitting there, and he's the first base umpire. Before the game even started, the pitcher's warming up, and he sees my hat, and he goes, "Hey," and he goes, "What is that?" So I said, "What? You got a problem, ump?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Hey," and I threw him out of the game before the game ever started.
Was he a Sox fan or a Cubs
I
fan?
have no
or
idea.
No idea.
He was just giving me some grief for wearing the Yankee stuff like you were trying to do here earlier.
No, we don't do that.
I
so.
wasn't trying. I don't know anything about baseball. I don't know anything about
No,
sports.
you have to
I
understand, if you're a Yankee fan out here, you're going to catch grief.
I
No
learned.
matter where you're going to catch it, whether it's here or anywhere.
I learned. Well, I had to ask my dad what baseball team did you like? That was like one of the questions that I asked. He's
Yeah.
like, "Are you kidding me? You don't know that?" I'm like, "No, I don't." But then, yeah, I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know that because you always make fun of Ashley and I for our version
yeah,
of
the coffee
talk. So I guess we don't say it the Brooklyn way.
No, you were doing the Boston way.
I was okay. So
You were
how
going coffee talk,
coffee
and it's
talk?
got to go coffee talk.
Yeah, so I told her
Coffee
this,
talk.
and we
Coffee
tried to
talk.
go down now, and neither of us are on sync anymore. We're thinking too much about it, Jeff.
Well, you two never
Got
talked
ahead.
to me. I know you mentioned it right after that. I said that to you. I was watching. And you haven't talked to me for months after that, either one of you. And then you finally got over that. You said hello to me one time. I said, she's all right with me now.
When I first met you, when I was in high school and you were doing radio stuff, Lee Enterprises owned KHQA,
Yep.
WT80, and WQCY. Since then, I think 72 different people have owned KHQA,
Yeah.
and about 14 people have owned the radio stations. And now we see the KHQA is going to have another ownership change. Talk to me a little bit about, because Lee Enterprises was a good ownership group,
They were.
correct?
They're very good. They're a newspaper outlet.
Yeah.
And broadcast as well. And they got out of the broadcast eventually, but they were very good. And that day when they decided to split off and sell the radio properties, it was a devastating day for the radio people because we knew what we were facing. We didn't know what we were facing, but we kind of knew what was coming down the pike. And at that point, they sold off like every second or third year. We had a new owner. It was like crazy. Do I have a 401k or not? How's this all work? Think you got things all set, and all of a sudden they change it on you. So that's typical of America today. It's
Yeah.
not changed any. Corporate America is ruthless. I'll be just honest about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great in many ways, but they can be ruthless with their people because you're no longer without local ownership, and we're seeing this in this community. It suffers when you don't have local owners, and you become a number in their system and not a person. And the personal aspect of the employees goes away.
That's it's really sad to hear because it hits obviously close to home. My dad worked with Jeff for a very long time. When I first met Jeff, I was probably 4 or 5, and I heard his voice, and I thought it was the voice of God. I was like, "Is this God?" And
Nice.
but in all reality, you do have one of the greatest radio voices I've ever heard, and I remember listening to you guys growing up, and you captured my attention probably just with your voice alone. It was.
I didn't have this voice when I was younger. I was.
When did that come about?
It came about really when I got out of high school. It was deep enough in high school, but it wasn't like a radio voice in high school. And I worked to get rid of my Brooklynese a little bit too in there, and sometimes it's probably coming out today when I'm speaking. But when I would go to college, I was driving to school and every day back and forth to classes. And when I would drive there, I was doing an exercise for my voice. It was just a ooh, and I do ooh for like 15 minutes. You know, people probably thought I was nuts coming past me. And then on the way home, I would do ah, and so it was oohs and ahs, and it strengthens your voice and your vocal cords, and a little more diaphragm usage, which makes everything go with your voice anyway. So that helped me a lot, and then it just stayed, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. Maybe I talk too much and keep it going a lot. I don't know. It's like any other muscle in your body. If you don't use it, you lose it.
When you know, as we talked about with, like you said, you and Steve have worked together for a long time, and you know, again, when you went from, you know, you at TAD and then GEM back to TAD and then ended up over at the Town Square people, and again, I think that is just, I think if you had, you know, Lee ownership continue to carry on and stick around and try to, you know, hammer this out, you know, who knows, maybe that's where you'd have retired from, and then it happened, you know, when everybody thought that Quincy Newspapers Incorporated / Quincy Media, they would be the last people to do it, and they did it. And then they made one of their radio stations just go dark because they didn't want to mess with it. And I believe that GEM FM is the only radio station in Gray's portfolio. I think they're just strictly
That's
TV
true.
for the most part.
That's true.
So, and again, I'm just kind of surprised they're still even kind of futzing with it, for lack of a better term. So, and again, I think that's just really, you know, we need. Again, I know we are in the internet business, obviously, and we do what we do, and we think we're the future and all this, but I still think there's a place for local broadcasting. I really think there is, and I just wish that somebody would try to put a little more into it, because everybody's cutting.
Well, look at the success you guys have had. How many years? You 3, 4?
4 years into this month.
You know, and in 4 years, you mentioned Muddy River News, and everybody knows who you are. And you're local. You do local stories. You talk to local people. I've always said local will always beat anything.
Yeah.
Because people want to know about the people that they're with in their community. If you start, you know, you watch the news on TV, and I'm not going to categorize one station over the other. They both do it. You'll have a local newscast at 6 o'clock or something, and all of a sudden there's somebody from Paducah, Kentucky, talking about a flood down there or something, which doesn't have any effect on this area.
No.
You know, and that kind of stuff. It's just filler.
It's almost confusing too.
Well, it's filler, and they have to come up with enough to fill 30 minutes with on those shows. So I know why they do it, but, you know, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, that would have been all local news.
Yeah.
I mean, when I came to Quincy, Channel 7 had like 7 or 8 reporters.
Yeah.
And at least 2 every day were out, and they had to have a story everry single day.
Yeah, at least one, maybe not 2 or 3 stories.
And everything was local. There was none of that insert of outside area stories. So it's all changed, and you know, and hopefully it'll come back. You guys are a prototype here for maybe some other people to think second, third time about maybe doing something like this in the radio business. I firmly believe that if you take a radio station and do local all day long, give local people on there, now it's going to be tough to do because it takes a lot of capital to pull that off.
Right.
And it's not cheap like it was, and it wasn't cheap then, but it's cheaper than it is now to start up a new radio station and also hire a lot of people to work it. You know, we were on 24/7 live.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like we had somebody overnights and all that kind of stuff. And that never happens anymore.
And I think the other part of that goes hand in hand with that is the demise that there's no, on this side of the river, I know the Town Square people and Bill Schuler, they still do games over for Hannibal Palmyra, but on this side of the river, there's nobody doing games locally on the radio anymore.
Yeah, I could cry when I heard that we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Because you know me, I'm this play-by-play guy for years here for the Blue Devils and the Raiders and the Hawks.
How many Silver Domes have you won?
5, 6.
There you go.
6.
There you go. So that's like the award when you're like the best play-by-play guy in the area or whatever.
5 on the play-by-play and 1 on the radio. Just being
Yeah.
a
So,
nice show.
so yeah, I mean, it is. It hurts, and of course, I did games for I mean, you and Moyers and the Kinshirf and all you guys done. Irvin have done a gazillion games. I did a handful, and it was and again, we have talked about trying. And again, I know GM streaming games. The Raider, Irvin's doing his stuff with QND, and that's all great. But still, if you're in your car and you're late, out on a Friday night, it's like, oh, what's the score of the Devils game or what's the score of the Raiders game? You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it stinks.
Well, again, it's costly. Okay?
It is.
And you don't have the advertising, the people aren't stepping up. I mean, let's face it, in the 80s and 90s, the Blue Devils, you go to knock on some businessman's door and they would say, I'm here to sell you an advertising in the Blue Devil broadcast. 9 times out of 10, I'm in.
Sure.
But now it's a little more hesitancy. Nah, I can't do it this year, kind of thing. And it's some of it's because of the economy. Maybe it'll change here in the next few years. Who knows? But you just don't do these things for free. I mean, it is costly. People don't understand that.
I've been trying to get Brittany and Ashley to work for free for months, and I just can't make that happen.
Is that why you have these microphones that don't go to anything?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a cost-cutting measure right there. So
I did hear you say, back when the radio sold, you became just a number, which, like I said, that was something that I know my dad experienced too. Kudos to you for sticking through that, because that shows your perseverance, shows that your love for and your passion for radio. That was something you felt important. Obviously, you were probably not paid as well as you were supposed to be paid too. It is a low-paying job.
Well, I announced my retirement, and they couldn't find anybody to replace me. I gave them 6 months' notice.
So that's the other thing. We've lost a lot of great radio legends. There might not be the people to fill those shoes.
Yeah. But I gave them 6 months' notice, and they couldn't find anybody, and they came to me 2 weeks before I was going to retire, basically, and said, would you stick around and just do part-time? So I did part-time for 4 years. That's when I worked with Sarah. I was part-time at that time. Most people didn't realize that. And I love that, because when I was working from 5 o'clock in the morning until 5, 6 o'clock at night. Because off the air, doing a million other things.
Sure.
But part-time, I was just doing the air show, and writing blogs. But
The fun stuff.
yeah, well, the blogs weren't too much fun, but radio guys don't write very well. But anyway, long story short is that they came in corporate America. You're done Thursday. A lot of people said, hey, congratulations in retirement. I just called it that because it was easier than to explain what was going on.
Yeah.
Sure.
And my number came up, and they decided to cut, and I was gone in 4 days. You're done Thursday was the comment. Really? So. But anyway, it was good. I was ready.
At the beginning, all your service endeavors, and like I said, we had you on because of the letter to the editor that you said about voting. So I think this kind of goes hand in hand, and this is a tough question, and I don't expect you to have the answer, but maybe you have an idea.
Should I have a drink first?
Yeah,
Okay.
of his water.
Drinking healthy, folks.
But, so voter turnout's low. We don't have the young vote. Service. People in different service programs, I don't think we see as many young people.
Nope.
What is the answer to get young people involved in service, voting, just the community in general? What can we push to make them more like Jeff Dorsey?
I think, oh boy, I don't know about that part, but I think getting people involved is, they have to understand the benefits of it. When you join a service club, and we've got so many great service clubs, not just the Quincy Service Club that I belong to. They do great work around here. And without them, God help the community, because a lot of money goes to fund things and keep things going that a lot of people don't even realize. So they do great work, but I think if you get people who say, well, the dues is like whatever, and I don't know if I want to pay that kind of money, but it comes back to you tenfold. You have a problem in your house or something, and one of your service members is a plumber or a contractor, and you say, what can I do to, and usually they'll come over and they'll help you. It all works out for you. When I first started, I said, I don't know if I want to join this, but I did. I'm glad I did. And I turned around, and everything that I needed was right in front of me whenever I needed it. And if it wasn't there, I knew I could go to find out where to get it. And the camaraderie, the whole bit, you can't beat that. I mean, you make friends in there that last forever. You encourage others to join you, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. People come and go because of job situations and all that kind of stuff, and that's going to happen anywhere. But I just think they have to really, when you go ask somebody to join a service club, just convince them, if you can, how important it is to the community, how important it is for yourself and your family to realize that, I'm bonding with a bunch of people now that can be a benefit to me, not only here in another week or two, years down the road.
I like that, like you're creating your own community.
Yeah, we are.
It's
Yeah.
the same
It's
thing
exactly
what
what
I
it
tell
is.
them all the time at the bar. There's somebody there that I wait on, And it's the same thing, you know, that I'm learning now with the Elks.
Yep.
I'm meeting new people, and everybody has a trade or something that they can offer you, or you can offer them.
Sure. You know,
Were you friends with John Tripp before Exchange, or did you become friends with him through Exchange?
I was friends with John before Exchange Club, but just barely. And then I got asked to join. He was in there already. And Dick Ventura, of all people, he asked me to be a member, and I agreed to do it. So yeah, it was before it. And he was my best friend, you know, forever, until he died, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's just a guy. You know, he's one of those guys that, you know, we've had, you know, you and I, we've all had some friends, some very good friends of ours who've passed over the last few years. But John was, you know, like one of those. It was what, 10, 20 years, 18. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it'll be 2009.
Yeah, so
it'll be
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, he was just one of those guys. It was a huge one, because I mean, it was one of those things where I know exactly where I was when I heard he died, and I was driving back from Springfield, and it was, you know, but he was just such a sensible, level-headed guy, and just funny as heck, and obviously told you what he thought and didn't care what you thought about what he thought.
He didn't. He was a great guy. He really. I was with him 20 minutes before he passed away, because we had breakfast that morning, and I found out later on that he had passed away at his house. But tough time. But you know, he made an impact in the community.
Yeah.
You know, he's the one. If you ever hear the term Harvard on the Hill for Culver Stockton,
Yeah.
it was John who coined
Oh
it.
yeah.
And it stuck forever, and it's still being used.
Yeah, he was Mr. Culver Stockton, no
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it. That's how he got here, because he was a New York guy like you.
Yep.
Got here, and then
That's
he
how we
played
became
football,
friends.
and
Yep. Yep.
so.
Yep.
But yeah, such. But again, I think that you know,
He's
guys.
a lousy golfer, by the way. He wasn't that bad. He was,
I have one last question,
okay.
Ask
and
your
I
last
want
question.
to. I think we should end it on something positive.
Please
Good.
do.
So you're called the Big Dog.
Yep.
Why? I've never understood why.
Why are you the big dog?
Okay. Well, look at me for one reason, but I never was this way for a long time. John Tripp.
Did he give you the nickname?
Yeah, and a long story short is that neither one of us liked our general manager at the radio station at the time. And we would have our
I'm so glad I asked this question.
sales meetings, and questions would come up about stuff, and anybody know what we can do about this? And John would say, just ask the big dog, and just bypassed the general manager completely. And that stuck, and he kept hammering the big dog and the big dog and the big dog. And it didn't set well with the general manager, but that's how it started.
I love
She
it.
was a treat. I
Yeah.
worked for her too.
Well,
she was lovely.
She probably was gone in a year or two later with how many times it changed.
She was however long she was here, it was too long. That's all I remember.
I think I'll have a drink.
Well, cheers to that.
All right.
I need something in my water after that.
Jeff, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
as
the invite.
always.
Thank
We're
you,
glad to
Jeff.
see you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.